All right, well, today's Qualified at the Intersection really is about how much longer can I do this? How much longer can any of us have opinions publicly that are contrary to what the administration wants? The indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel to me is like the Archduke Ferdinand starting World War One. His, unfortunate incident with him starting World War One, because it's one of these things in history that you're going to look back and be like, oh yeah, we were in fascism. Which, even saying that as an opinion could apparently get you put in jail. Jimmy Kimmel is a wealthy man. He's not going to be on the street, but it's not about that. It's about the exercise of I can stop you from saying what I don't want you to say. Jimmy Kimmel didn't say anything about Charlie Kirk's assassination or anything about that. He talked about the fact that Donald Trump and his crew are exploiting the death and trying to do all kind of pretzel knots to blame it on the quote other side, that kind of thing. Mark Twain, I guess, would be in jail under this administration, but it really does beg the question of how much longer can any of us on social media broadcast? How much longer will we be able to do it? Because in my newsletter yesterday, I talked about the fact that we were in trouble, and literally, we are in trouble. We're not sliding into fascism. We are currently in a fascist regime, because that's what fascism does, right? It controls the media, it controls the messaging, and if you step out of line, you'll be punished. And what was so alarming that I wrote about yesterday is that Mr. Blanche, the Assistant U.S. Attorney General, and Pam Bondi, these people, they're talking about remedies against citizens for speech they don't approve of. And that means podcasters. That means people on Substack. That means all of us. And, a lot of people have said, oh, we need to do a nationwide strike. Well, based on what the Justice Department is saying, they would go after any organizers of a nationwide strike as a RICO case, a racketeering case. And so we've left the shore. We are so far out from the shore. It's not clear to me there's any way for us to get back. I think we're caught in a rip current, and I don't know what is going to happen next, but I do think that those of us who post on social media should be aware that they intend to crack down to, the mouse level. If there's a mouse running around who doesn't say the right thing, they intend to crack down. Because, again, Jimmy Kimmel did not say anything obscene, anything negative about Charlie Kirk. He just, talked about the fact, as a satirist, about how they are turning themselves into pretzels to try to pretend a young man who went to college for half a semester was radicalized, or just doing anything they can to blame the quote other side. While anytime they're asked about Melissa Hortman, and even today the FBI director Kash Patel, when asked about Dylan Roof killing the black church member, said who. So this is something they're doing. Like, when you ask them about things from the quote other side, they don't know what you're talking about. And the chairman of the FCC being on a conservative podcast and threatening ABC. I mean, so they only are the ones who have a right to speech. We do not. And I think we should take that very seriously. They intend to get people fired from their jobs, to get them out of their platforms, to put them in jail, to cause economic pain. And I guess we have to think of things like the Underground Railroad, and I guess we have to think of things like, during Nazi invasion, the way people connected and communicated. Because the Jimmy Kimmel thing is, I think, bigger than a lot of people realize. It's bigger than Colbert in a sense, because Colbert was like the first shot, but Jimmy Kimmel is like the acceleration. And that acceleration tells us it's coming for individuals. It's coming for me, for you, for anybody who has an opinion that they disagree with. And in the newsletter yesterday, I talked about how it reminds me of Jim Crow in the American South, where African Americans had to go along to get along. You could never say publicly your opinion to white people. You had to get off the sidewalk. You couldn't look them in the eye. You couldn't say anything contradictory. Well, in this Jim Crow 2.0, that applies to black, white, Asian, Hispanic, anybody who they think is on the quote other side. Now, they can say any kind of filthy thing they want, that we are subhuman, that we are not intelligent, that we are unqualified. They'll be platformed by institutions like SHRM and others, the Society of HR Managers. But the rest of us, yeah. So I don't know how much longer I can do this newsletter. I don't know, how long it will take them to get to everyone, but they will get to everyone because that's what fascism does. Um, and Jimmy Kimmel's, my mother, when she was alive, she loved Jimmy Kimmel. She called him my Jimmy. And she used to laugh and she said, I liked his show when it was raggedy, when he first left the man show and went to this show. So there is a sentimentalness for me and Jimmy Kimmel because I used to tell people he's my fake brother because my mother liked him so much. But yeah, I don't know how much longer, I can say what I want to say, that I can talk about history, that I can use words or terminology that they don't like white supremacy culture or slavery or systematic. They have a list of things. And Stephen Miller has said they intend to, go after us, go after people who contradict them. And he said, you should never contradict a president, which is absolutely not in a democracy. So we are not in a democracy still. We are in a fascist dictatorship today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not happening next week. It is here. We are here. And while you might look at the Jimmy Kimmel thing and say, well, he's a rich guy, you can't say white guy, because that's why the woman from Washington Post got fired. Just can't say white guy. But you can say black people are stupid, but you can't say white guy. So I just want to make sure like I said, it's just a Jim Crow. It's separate but not equal. It's segregation. And the Supreme Court is definitely going to confirm their right to do whatever. And the next step will be physical restraint. They already are doing that with the ICE raids, putting people in these facilities. And I guess the next is for the rest of us. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Don't know how much longer Substack will be able to have voices because they will, Mark Andreessen and Andreessen Horowitz invest in Substack. So he's part of a group chat with the administration. So I'm sure they're giving them our data, our names, our locations, what we say. And people say, oh, we go to this platform, go to that platform. There's no platform you can run to because as long as platforms are motivated by income, and everybody is, Substack said they weren't to start, and they are, right? Everybody wants to get that $1 billion buyout. And so if we flood over to another one, they're going to eventually want to monetize. So at this point, Nexstar is a very conservative organization that owns a bunch of ABC affiliates all around the country. And they are dictating what their viewers can watch. So, and they're doing it at the behest of the president. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to say what I want to say. And speak, and what the consequences of that will be. And so we just have to see where it goes. However, one thing I will say, I do think that now is a time for a national strike. I do. I think that there has to be some indication from a large portion of the American population that we do not agree with this, that we will not go willingly into that good night, that we will not go like cows to our own slaughter. And so I do think that a national strike is indicated, which would look like people not going to work for a day, people not purchasing anything, people just really withholding the few things you have left. and they don't care. I mean, they would be fine with an apartheid state, right? People always forget that apartheid did not economically activate a huge portion of its population because of racism. So yeah, they had this huge portion that if they would have shared with Black Africans, South Africa could have been even more of an economic powerhouse. But so they were willing to forego that, and I think they're willing to forego that in the United States. You see the destruction of Black employment is moving at lightning speed, which I said was going to happen. It's moving at lightning speed, and so yeah, they're willing to sacrifice economic vitality and force us into a subservient position. Because what are you going to do? You don't have a job. You have to eat. If you get medical care, they say, well, you can pick the vegetables. We don't need immigrants. That kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know how much longer any of us will be able to speak. So that is not upbeat. I'm sorry, but it is true. It is really true. And yeah, we got to figure it out. But I would love to see a nationwide strike activated sooner rather than later.